Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men ask for the right words to say to be more successful, attractive, and desirable. But I found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines because every man is different. So giving words or scripts would be like giving a tall, thin man a shorter, wider man's pants, or vice versa. The words have to make sense for you and your personality, and there's so much happening beneath the surface that people are responding to. If you're interested in how to become a better lover and leader in your own unique way, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or you can text ALIVE to 44144. It only takes a couple minutes and you'll start to get an idea of how you can be both more respected and desired. After you fill it out, we can schedule a time to review your quiz and talk about your specific challenges and desires. So again, go to either shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text ALIVE to 44144. That's ALIVE to 44144. Enjoy this episode of Man Alive. Hello and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I am here today with Craig Wilkinson to talk about fatherhood and the wounds that can happen when men don't get the right kind of fathering, or maybe we shouldn't call it the right kind of fathering, but let's say, a connected, really personal kind of fatherhood, right? When dads have a lot of pressure on them and when they're just providers or, making money and then not being involved in a kid's life, it can create a lot of wounds for, boys who grow up to be men. And then we're also going to look at the journey of becoming a father and what it means to step into fatherhood and how to raise boys in healthy ways. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart as a parent, and, just raising a child, I think is one of the most amazing and challenging things I've ever done. And so I just commend all of you dads out there, and you, Craig, for, bringing consciousness to this important task.
Fantastic. Great to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you. Can you give us a quick bit of, you've been on Man Alive before. I think it was, probably, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, even at this point. So
right, yeah.
Maybe for men who haven't heard your episode or known of you, can you give us a little glimpse into how you started doing this?
Sure. Well, based in South Africa, as you know, and we live in a country which is really, in many ways, in crisis. Huge degree of fatherlessness, and started a non-profit company called Father a Nation, just really believing if we can heal and restore men to be good fathers, mentors, role models, we can heal the world. And I still believe that. Was a single dad for many years myself, and when my son turned 18, he wrote me a letter, which to this day remains the greatest gift I've ever received in my life. It was it started off by saying, "Dear Dad," it was spontaneous. I didn't ask for it. He just said, "Dear Dad, I wanted to write a letter to say thank you for being my best friend, my brother, but most importantly, my dad."
Oh my God.
And it was a tearjerker. And he went on to say, he said, "I consider myself the most fathered human on earth."
Wow.
And he said, these were his words. It was prophetic. He said, "You can bring this to the rest of the unfathered world." And it took me about 12 attempts to read the whole letter. I was so choked up.
I bet.
But that led me to write a book called Dad, How to Be the Father Your Children Need, and talked about the 12 dad verbs, the fact that, being a dad is a noun. You're a dad as soon as your child's born, but more importantly, it's a verb. It's what you do. You get stepdads that are better fathers than biological fathers.
Yeah.
You get bigger brothers, older brothers that are better fathers than their dads, and uncles and men. So I wrote the book, and then in South Africa, we've got a big problem with gender-based violence as well. I know it's an international issue. Gender-based violence happens in all spheres of society, but began to look at why do men abuse? No boy is born an abuser,
right?
Or a misogynist, or a racist, or any of those things. And something goes wrong on the journey from baby to boy and boy to man, and it's generally the father, because young boys look to older men to teach them what it means to be a man.
Mentors and role models, and
100%. Man, I there are many. I've got a son and a daughter. There are many things I can model for my daughter, but one thing I cannot model to her is how to be a woman, because I'm not a woman.
Right.
She needs a mom for that, and my son needs me as his dad to model to him what it means to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a little booklet on gender-based violence. Why men abuse, the four main reasons why, not excuses. There's never an excuse.
Yeah.
And actions we need to take as men and women to stop it. And then wrote a little book called The Six Pack of Masculine Virtues, which really looks at the 6 virtues that make a man a man. And it's not the macho, it's not the bicep, it's not the bank balance, it's not nice,
Can we go into that a little bit more? What is that? I mean, thank you for all of this deep and profound work that you're sharing with dads. And I think we might have actually covered some of these pieces in the last podcast, but I think it would be great for men to hear these virtues.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to be the voice of the father we never had. So the nonprofit organization Father Nation, we do a lot of work with men in all spheres of society: corporations, colleges, schools, prisons, taverns. And essentially that's become the life work. Produced a course for school as well, schools called The Six Pack.
Fantastic.
Where teenage boys, it's Shane, it's quite tragic how masculinity has really come under fire.
Yeah.
I say to a lot of young teenage guys at schools, in the last 2 or 3 years of school, would you be able to tweet out, "I'm so proud to be a man"? And a lot of the guys say, "Oh, sir, no, I couldn't do that. I'd be cancelled." Which is tragic. If you're a man, be a man. If you're a woman, be a woman. Be who you are and be proud of it, because what else can you be? And so, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with boys in terms of just teaching them that true masculinity is a beautiful, powerful, wonderful gift to humanity.
So true,
own it,
right?
And live it.
So much focus is on the toxic masculinity, and how I love the word pride, or like what would have a young man or a man proud to be a man, as opposed to ashamed to be a man.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a predominant feeling in many ways. I'm ashamed because of because there is such a thing as toxic masculinity, but it's not. It's a distortion of masculinity. It's not the real thing.
Yes.
And so a lot of men are afraid and step back and are ashamed to be. And we're finding this now in relationships. I mean, men are the pursuers generally, but men are afraid to pursue. They're afraid to ask a woman out on a date, in case they're overstepping the mark. And, what are the rules now?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I work with that a lot with men, and the fear of whether they're in a relationship or not in a relationship, asking a woman out on a date, or asking a woman for whether it's affection or connection or sex or, any of that. There's a whole, conglomeration of, oh man, I shouldn't ask, or, am I going to be seen as selfish or toxic, or all those things? And
correct.
Yeah. So can you do a quick bit on the 6 virtues, and we'll see if maybe we'll go deeper into them, or we'll take a different tack. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, virtue number 1 for men is what do you do with your strength? So I say virtue number 1 is you use your strength for good.
Yeah.
And there are 3 things men can do with their strength. I mean, physically, men have strength. The average man is I think it's 50 or 60% upper body stronger than the average woman.
Yeah.
Legs, funny enough, are closer in strength.
Interesting.
But there's physical strength. There's also verbal strength. I mean, your words are powerful. They can either tear down or lift up. Your presence is powerful. Especially as a lover, as a husband, as a partner, as a father. As a son, your presence counts. And so there are many different types of strength men have. So like any relationship you're in, you have power. Both a man and a woman has power, because you have the power to make the person feel good or bad, rejected or loved, nurtured or abused. So there are many different kinds of power that men have, and what makes you a man is what do you do with that? And there are 3 things you can do. You can either fail to use it. The old saying that says all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. So when men fail to use their strength, and things like addictions often are men failing to use their strength. I mean, pornography is a massive epidemic, and so instead of being there for your lover in a very real and tangible and profound and exclusive way, spending hours and hours watching porn or alcohol or work can be an
It's like
escape.
the strength getting twisted, getting, somehow contorted, right? Like, oh, I don't know what to use I don't know what to do with my strength. So it just kind of finds these outlets.
It's misdirected. Yeah, it's misdirected. Or just failing to be there. You have a child, but you're not there. You're on the golf course instead of with your child. You're in the pub instead of with your wife. So you've failed to, you see bullying, you see racism, you see all these things, and you just don't speak up. You're silent, So there's the failure to use the strength. I mean, someone said very powerfully that the opposite of masculinity is not femininity, it's passivity. Masculine and feminine are not opposite, they're complementary. But passive, men are not designed to be passive. So there's passivity, and then there's aggression. That's another way of using your strength. Take what's not yours. Force yourself. Never say I'm sorry. Can't be vulnerable. You misuse your strength. But the only way to use it to be a true man is to use your strength for good, and that's to love and to serve, honor, protect, provide. The classic chivalrous man. Let me use. Strength is a gift. It's a sacred responsibility. How am I using it? If I'm stronger than someone, bullying them is just abusing my strength, but protecting them is using it correctly. So that's, long and the short of it. That's
I mean, really to look at, okay, I have strength. That innately is not a problem. Just like I talked about your desire, your turn on, all of that. It's not a problem. It's what we do with it. Right. And that spectrum from passive to aggressive, and what's that middle conscious way. I love that you just said sacred responsibility.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, men are designed to be dangerous. We are dangerous. Yeah. We should be dangerous. Never to women, never to children, never to each other as brothers. But dangerous to whatever threatens women, children, brothers, society, dangerous to prejudice, race, dangerous to those things, because we as men should say, not on my watch, we're going to use our strength to fight those. So, I mean, that's the number one virtue. Use your strength for good. Yeah. Never fail to use it, never misuse it, use it for good. Yeah. The second one is tend your fields, it's just an agricultural example. Every man has a field, and in that field is himself, his loved ones, his roles and duties and responsibilities, his resources, and true masculinity stands up and says, everything in my field is going to be nurtured, cared for, loved, is going to blossom, is going to be watered, it's going to be in good shape as far as it is in my power to do. My children are going to be better because I'm in my life, I'm in their life. And so you step up and take full responsibility. And, a lot of guys, we get a victim mentality, we get a blame mentality, we get a laziness, anyway. So virtue number 2 is tend your field. Virtue number 3 is judge yourself and define yourself by character as opposed to image and possessions. It's not the size of your biceps or your bank balance, it's the size of your character. Do you have a set of values? Do you have integrity to uphold those values and live those values? Are you authentic? Are you real? The 4 big lies about masculinity are sex, power, money, and big boys don't cry. That's how men define themselves. The more sex I can have, the more of a man I am. The more power, the more money.
Which, of course, gets passed down generation to generation. So that's what you're doing, such an amazing, thing to break this cycle and teaching men how to actually be fathers, where they pass down that definition by character rather than image.
Correct. And it's a difficult one. The one, so many examples, but you judge yourself by the car you drive. If you happen to be borrowing, my car was in for service one day years ago, and I was fetching my kid from school, and I borrowed this beaten up old rust bucket, and driving into campus and seeing these beautiful cars, and I actually pulled off and waited for them to go by. I didn't want people to see me in this car, and you think, well, how shallow is that? I'm judging myself by the car I drive, and I'm allowing other people to define my worth as opposed to really being strong
right there, right? Allowing others to define your worth rather than really finding it within yourself.
Correct. In your character and who you are, who you are. So that's the third one. The fourth one is to build a band of brothers. Men need each other, and we often as men, we rip each other off. And in fact, the research has shown that men are lonely. We have friends we can watch a game with and drink a beer with and hang out with, and but we very seldom have friends that truly deeply know us, honor us, care for us, have our backs, call us out, sharpen us, and that's, we need that as men. We can never be our best walking alone. I was at a funeral not long ago, and I just the metaphor of, it was a guy who had committed suicide, a guy I knew, and there were pallbearers, 6 of them, carrying the coffin. And I just remember thinking, wow, where were those 6 men before he was in the coffin?
When he was alive,
where were they?
right?
When he was alive, and as men, we need to do that. We need to have the courage to be vulnerable and to build a band of brothers around us that really know us, and we're able to share our deepest vulnerabilities and rely on each other, and also hold each other accountable. We've got blind spots, and we need men to point that out and to keep us on the right track. So that's
so important.
Quality virtue number 4.
The rate of suicide is very high for men right now, and I think it is because of that isolation and that sense of, all right, I have someone I could drink a beer with, but like the risk to go first to create a vulnerable relationship with another man, as opposed to we're just gonna shoot the shit,
Exactly.
Well,
is that much a sense of I've got it, I can't be vulnerable, and it's a very well. I mean, you mentioned suicide 4 times. The rate generally internationally is 4 times more men than women, and part of that is we don't share our vulnerabilities. We carry it alone. We feel like we have to, and it's such a misconception. The 5th one, just to quickly breeze through them, is to mentor the next generation. Every one of us needs a mentor that we look to, or mentors, many mentors. But we're being watched. Particularly as a father, older brother. There's a lovely story of a man in England who used to come in from work every day, put his bag down, and go to the pub. And the one day he was sitting in the pub having his favorite drink, and he felt a tugging at his elbow, and he looked down, and there was his 5-year-old son, and he said to him, "Oh, son, how did you find me?" He said, "Oh, Dad, it was easy. I just followed your footprints in the snow." And he had this absolute revelation. I'm leaving footprints, and someone's following those footprints. Where do they lead?
Yeah.
So we need to live lives that are worth emulating and mentor the next generation. And finally, number 6 is
just before we go to number 6, that just reminds me too that as we're speaking to men who aren't necessarily fathers, that we, or even as adults, we still need mentorship. And especially I have a mentor woman who's in her 80s, and it's amazing. And I didn't have my grandmother was schizophrenic, right? There weren't a lot of elders in my life who could play that mentor role. And I think that's similar for a lot of men. So if if you're listening and you don't have a mentor yourself, it's really important.
Find one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a sad lack of good male mentors. There really is, and we all need them. I mean, it's not to say we only need male mentors. I mean, I've had some wonderful female mentors
genders,
as well.
Exactly. All genders.
Both genders. But there's certain things that as a man you need males, you need men, and as a woman you need women. Like the wonderful lady you have in your life, the 8-year-old. I love hearing that story.
Yeah.
Because older people have got so much wisdom to give, and we often write them off.
Yeah.
But I mean that cycle is so beautiful. Every man and every woman should have mentors and mentees.
Yeah.
Continue the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Both, up and down.
Yep.
And mentors can be your own age. We often have peer mentors. And mentors can be people you've never met. You are a mentor to many who've never met you because of the words you say and the people. And that's beautiful. I mean, I have mentors I've never met, books I've read, YouTube clips, and people I follow.
And many people, you mentor many people. I mean, hundreds, thousands of people, and then they're mentoring people, through you with your teachings.
Yeah. But we're being watched, everyone, and someone's looking at us, and it's a beautiful thing, live a great life, pass on the legacy. And finally, it's a very simple one, is virtuous men make the world a better place. And they say you can judge often the character of a man by the condition of his wife and his children and family, so you ask people, is your wife or your partner or your kids, are they better because you're in their life? Do you bring out the best in them? Do you water them, nurture them, love them, care for them, affirm them with your words and actions? and you can ask that of your colleagues, are my colleagues, are my friends better because I'm in their lives? Is my country a better country because I'm in, is my workplace? You get the givers and the takers in life, don't you? Those who just take and don't give. And, if every man was a net giver, we'd live in paradise. We'd absolutely live in paradise.
This is beautiful. And it doesn't mean that men can't receive or shouldn't receive, right? That's a lot of what I work with on men, is how they can also receive love and care and nurturing and mentorship and all that it's okay, right? Not to have to be the rock 100%. And the one who has it together all the time. And I do notice that men who have a generous or, giving mentality, it feeds me, it nurtures me, it allows me to then do more and give more in the world. And so it's this beautiful cycle.
It is. It's a beautiful upward spiral. And you're 100% right. I mean, we're like reservoirs, aren't we? Unless there's an input into them, we can't just keep giving out. We'll run dry. Yeah. So, but it's a beautiful principle in life. You reap what you sow. The more you give out, often the more comes back to you. I mean, you smile at someone, you're going to get a smile back. You love someone, you're going to get some love back. It's a reciprocal thing.
Yeah. Well, I have a question that I was going to ask, but I'm wondering, as you speak these virtues, if there's anything that's just stands out to you, because you've been working with these for a long time. Is there anything recently that you've seen that you think would be useful for men around these virtues?
Well, I think the starting point, and this applies to everyone, but I think particularly men at the moment, is to realize that true masculinity is a beautiful gift. We mentioned that earlier, to come from that standpoint, and then to say, okay, but it can also be a curse, and the choice is mine. Am I going to be a gift to the world or a curse to the world, or neutral? And no one wants to be neutral. No one wants to go to their grave and people stand up and they battle to find something to say at your eulogy. You want to make an impact. I often say rather a dead lion than a live dog. You have an impact, but make sure the impact's for good. And I think the value that we bring, and I'm talking to men. I mean, the same applies to women. Exactly. We bring beautiful value to the world, but men bring tremendous value, and never doubt that, and never be ashamed of being a man, but make sure every day you choose to be a good man, a virtuous man, that the world is a better place because you're in it, because you're designed to make the world a better place and designed to be dangerous to whatever is dangerous to society.
I like that. And, as you've been talking, I can feel where that strength includes some of that, the power of being dangerous, and also the heart and care, right? To be able to say, oh, I want to take care. I want to make sure that these next generations are headed in the right direction.
Well, I mean, this is where we're getting it wrong in life. We have these sort of this dichotomy. Either you're this macho, strong, silent type, and or you're the soft, sensitive, sweet type. And true masculinity is both. It's a warrior and it's a lover. It's powerful and gentle. It's dangerous and nurturing, and both of those are masculinity, and we need to have both of those. Very much so. The nice guy always comes last syndrome. And if you are too nice, and and there's no danger to you, there's no edge to you, there's no sense of assertiveness and principle and ability to make decisions, you become quite a bland individual, and you might be
and
nice
not
guy,
happy
but then
yourself usually, right? It's not even just that you're not attracting others. It's when I work with a lot of nice guys. I think that's kind of my specialty, being a good girl myself, or having identified as that. And I love supporting nice guys because their hearts are open and they want to do good in the world. Yeah. And it's like, okay, let's help them, receive and feel their own power and their strength and the goodness, like you said, of their strength and their desires and all of that. That excites me.
And a lot of nice guys feel like women don't find me attractive. They want the bad guys. That's the refrain and the complaint. But I mean, a nice guy doesn't have to be soft.
You don't have to be an asshole, and you don't have to be soft, right? You can be, like you're saying, this blend of generous and dangerous and powerful and soft. And I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can we speak a little to the fathers out there? I know before we started recording, we talked a little bit about that parallel journey, right? There's the journey of learning the skills and the doing, but there's also the journey of being and becoming the human you are leaving those footprints in the snow for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, our greatest fathering tool is ourselves as a man. Just as, you as a mom, your greatest mothering tool is you as a woman.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of osmosis involved in parenting and impartation. And who you are, you will impart some of that to your children. If you're someone who's filled with love and joy and peace and kindness and goodness, you're going to impart that to your children, no doubt, just by the way you live and how you are. If you're someone who's got wounds and bitterness and prejudice and stuff, your kids are going to suffer as a result of that, because they see you and they feel you. They're part of you. They're with you all the time, and your vibes and what you put out and what you give out and how you speak to other people and treat other people and how you view yourself has a huge impact on them. Unconsciously, you're not even aware of it.
I was going to say, right, so much of that's unconscious, which is painful as a parent.
It is, but we also need to be gracious with ourselves. I think the parallel journey is this: can I tell a quick story?
Yeah, please.
My daughter, when she was 2.5, she was diagnosed with a small hole in one of the walls of her heart. Not life-threatening, but she had to have an operation. Luckily, technology is fantastic. Instead of open heart surgery nowadays, it's just a catheter that goes into a vein and it pops us. It's phenomenal, in and out. But when I took her to theater, I didn't want to. She was very scared, and I didn't want her to be wheeled into theater. So I asked the doctor if I could carry her into theater with, hold her in my arms, and they acceded to this. They don't normally, but I do scrub up and wash. Anyway, so they let me. So they actually allowed me to hold her in my arms as they put the gas mask over her and put her to sleep. She fell asleep in my arms, and I handed her over to the surgeon, fast asleep. And then when she woke up, I was there. She was the first one she saw. So minimized the trauma. It was a great success. But a month later, we were at my house and we're having a cookout. We call it a braai here, a barbecue, with a bunch of friends. And my daughter, we're standing in a circle on the lawn, just chatting. And my daughter was standing next to me. And one of my friends looked down at her and said, "Blythe, I believe you were in hospital recently." And she looked up at him and she said, "Yes." She said, "My heart was broken." She said, "But my daddy fixed it." I tell you, it was a.
Did you just start sobbing?
I had to excuse myself because the tears were there. But
wait, that's so interesting though, that I had to excuse myself because the tears were there, right? That's another one of those. Oh, I shouldn't. It is. I have to be manly.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe I wouldn't now. That was 20 odd years ago. Maybe now I would have the courage and the balls to stand there and shed a few tears. Yeah. It's definitely become more okay for men to cry, but we're not there yet. But anyway, the lesson was I realized that I did hold her heart in my hands, and that who I was as a man meant the world to her. And that it was way more than what I said to her, was how I behaved and pitched up, and I realized I held my son's heart in my hands. And that's when I realized this is a parallel journey. I can learn fathering techniques, how to discipline them, all the different, latest, Dr. Spock or whoever is the latest. But more importantly, I need to become a man who's whole and a man who's loving and caring and present and engaged and okay in my own skin, and not hung up and not having. And I mean, that's a tall order, because we all have that shit, excuse the expression. We do, we do. We all have it. None of us arrive at adulthood whole. We all have our stuff, our buttons and our insecurities. But to be able to say, being a parent is the greatest inspiration in my life to become the best version of me, whole. And start that journey of looking in the mirror, becoming aware, getting people around me, and just growing as a man and as a woman to become whole, because the wholer I am, the better parent I'm going to be.
More loving, the better parent. And I don't think that, again, there's this simultaneous journey of we're going to become more whole, because then, our kids feel more loved and tended to and whatever. Right. And also it's kind of like, thinking we're supposed to be perfect versus, when something, when we do something we're not proud of with our kids, and we actually go back and say, "Hey, I apologize. That's not who I wanted to be." I think that's so good for them, right? It's so good for them to learn that, okay, none of us are expected to be perfect. And we could actually have the wherewithal, right, to come back and clean things up with people and be connected, instead of just letting it all build up and fester.
Correct. Be real, be authentic, be humble. I think the corollary to that, I mean, we're living in I read a beautiful thing the other day where the guy was saying we have to stop giving participation trophies because because we do live in a generation where we're raising a group of coddled kids. They're too protected. They're too, kids are not mini adults. They're kids. They don't have the wisdom you and I have. There are times they need to be told to shut up and sit down, and these are boundaries. We need to be able to do that. So, I mean, discipline is also a crucial part it's the other. I mean, two sides of the love coin. One is nurture, love, care, affirmation, etc. The other side is discipline and boundaries.
Yeah.
And we have to have both. If you have one without the other, if you have discipline without love, you break the spirit. If you have love without discipline, you raise a complete brat who's going to really have a tough time in life,
right?
Because they don't have boundaries and they don't have discipline. And someone said so beautifully, you choose either the pain of discipline now or disappointment later, and the pain of discipline now is far better.
Oh man, it is hard. It's hard for me as one who doesn't like to say no, but I can see, I often have this mindset of, all right, what's going to have my kid not be an asshole later, right? What's the teaching or what's the learning now that we're going to have to suffer their emotions and their upset now, but right, that's going to teach them to be a better human.
Absolutely crucial. I mean, the worst, I mean, spoiling a kid spoils a kid. It's as simple as that. They grow up spoiled. Spoiled means rotten. It means it doesn't smell good. It doesn't taste good. It's not cool,
Yeah, it doesn't take care of others in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you feel, before you tell people where to find more of you, anything else that's on your mind or on your heart that you want to convey?
Well, I think, I love to tell stories and draw messages from them. One of the other stories from being a dad is we moved city years and years ago. My daughter was 7 years old, and we moved from an inland city, Johannesburg, to a beautiful coastal town. And my family moved 2 weeks ahead of me. I still had some stuff to wrap up.
Yeah.
And 1 week into this period where I was in Johannesburg, they were in Knysna. I was on the phone to my daughter, Blythe, 7 years old. And I said to her, with much enthusiasm in my voice, I said, Blythe, isn't life beautiful by the sea? And she said the strangest thing. She said, if this was my life, I would scream, she said. Such a strange. And I said, why? I was very alarmed. Why? And she said, because you're not here, Daddy.
Aww.
And that, in terms of fathering and parenting, it just made me realize the two most important words in our lives, our lexicon, are the words be there. And I think that applies across the board. Be there, be present, be engaged, just be there. That's 80% of it. Be there, be present, be engaged. My daughter's now in New Zealand, and she went back after a holiday here, and a week after she got there, she sent me a WhatsApp, and she said, Dad, I wish you were down the road, she said.
Aww.
And she said, the things that are, funny enough, she misses most are not the beautiful things you do, but just hanging out, shopping, sitting on the couch, chatting, having breakfast, washing dishes. I mean, just the mundane stuff, but you hanging out, you're there together. And I think the greatest gift.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the greatest gift we can give people is ourselves, our presence and our attention, looking in the eyes and hearing them and seeing them and getting them. And
especially these days, especially, with all of the media and phones and everything. It's interesting. I was on a hike with my kid yesterday, and she said, I kind of zoned out. Like, it was like a story, talking, and I kind of zoned out. And then she said something like, forget it, I'm not going to tell you because you always zone out. And I was like, wow, that is so, it's so interesting, because I don't think that that's true. I know myself to be, listening a lot, but it also was her reality in the moment. And so I found myself kind of weighing that, like, how do I not just defend that and be like, no, that's not true. But also, and also really get, something about that really hurt. And, I want to be here for you. I want to be there, right? I want to be here. So it's such an interesting dance as parents too, when our kids are upset and, saying things that are very extreme, because like you said, their brains are differently developed, not yet as developed as ours. So everything is very black and white. And it's a tough journey, parenting.
It's a very tough, and kids can also be manipulative. They can they
Yeah.
can push your buttons, and I think we need to be very kind to ourselves and gracious and realize, we're not perfect and never will be, and that's fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But be self-aware.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Website beingman.life. Very much so. Or just email me at craig@fatheranation.co.za.
Awesome.
So that's where we say Z, you say Z. Huh?
Yes.
Father A Nation, one word, .co.za.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for your work in the world.
Right back at you. Yeah, it's a great pleasure.
Thanks. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.